Turkish forces have pressed ahead with an offensive against U.S.-backed Kurdish militants in Syria's northern areas. Turkey regards the Kurdish militants in Syria as terrorists and a threat to its security. With an intensification of fighting, Turkish President has threatened to expand the military operation along the country's border with Syria, where the U.S. forces are also present. This has fueled concerns about the likelihood of a military confrontation between the Turkish and U.S. forces in the war-torn country. In an apparent warning to the U.S., Turkish Deputy Prime Minister Bekir Bozdag said those who support terrorists will, quote, become a target in the battle. Bozdag, who also serves as the government's spokesman, further urged the U.S. to halt its support for the Kurdish militants in Syria's north to avoid a confrontation with Turkish forces.
What we see Turkey doing with this aggressive move against the Kurds, we see them isolating themselves, and it seems to be developing in a way that you'll have Turkey fighting against Syria, Iraq and Iran, and Russia at the end of the day. Now, Russia is trying to hold it together. They're trying to balance out their alliances because they do not want to lose Turkey from being a significant factor in holding together the Syrian peace process.
Meanwhile, the Pentagon has assured Turkey that the U.S. will not adopt measures to prevent American weapons from falling into the wrong hands. This comes as Turkey is strongly opposed to the U.S. move to arm its allied Kurdish militants, whom Ankara views as terrorists. Separately, Turkey's top diplomat has called on the U.S. to, quote, immediately withdraw its personnel from Manbij, which is another Kurdish-dominated area in northern Syria. The U.S. intervened in Syria militarily under the pretext of fighting Daesh. With the defeat of the terrorist group in late 2017, American forces' presence in the war-torn country has been unjustified. However, U.S. Secretary of State Rex Tillerson unexpectedly announced in mid-January that American military forces would remain in Syria after the defeat of Daesh. Now, not only is Turkey demanding a halt to the U.S. military support for Kurds, but Ankara wants the U.S. forces' complete pullout from Syria.
Well, I think Turkey has already committed itself to allying with Russia and Iran over the United States and over NATO. NATO really has become an insignificant, unimportant relationship to Turkey because there is no Soviet Union. Hence, there's no reason for a NATO alliance for Turkey.
As Turkey continues with its invasion of Syria, diplomatic efforts are underway by other players to bring the deadly conflict to an end. Iran and Syria have been among the main supporters of the government of Syrian President Bashar al-Assad, organizing several rounds of peace talks alongside Turkey in Kazakhstan. As Russia is preparing to host another round of negotiations later this month, President Assad has stressed that anti-terror operations will continue with the help of Tehran and Moscow.
Well, I think we start out with the understanding that this situation with Turkey, with Syria, with Kurds, with Russia, with Iran, with Iraq is quite possibly the most complicated and difficult challenges of foreign policy since World War I. This is a phenomenally difficult and fragile situation because of the countries involved. So many of them have different degrees of investments in one another. They have a sense of loyalty and they're beholden to one another, and they have a certain honor that they have a duty to not betray each other.
So far, 9 rounds of UN-backed Syria peace talks have failed to produce results, mainly due to the opposition's insistence on the ouster of President Assad. And Turkey's invasion has now opened a new front in Syria's years-long conflict, which has claimed the lives of hundreds of thousands and displaced millions more.